So I ran off the freeway today coming back from my cat dealer. I was going down I-15 northbound, and they got a big construction zone at what they used to call the Flying Y, which was the interchange between I-15 and Interstate 86. And at the Pocatello Creek exit, as I come across the overpass at Pocatello Creek, I noticed all of a sudden I didn't have any steering. That's a 55-mile-an-hour construction zone through there, so thank goodness I was slowed way down. And I knew if I stepped on the brakes, the old Super Dodge was going to pull to the right, because that's what it does. So as soon as I got across the overpass and where the grassy area is for the on-ramp, I nailed the brakes and off the road we went. Center punched a delineator. Didn't do any damage. Came to a screeching halt on the grass. So what happened, this is a Borgeson shaft, and I replaced this after the wreck. I upgraded to a Borgeson box and this. And on the other end, you can see the set screw goes all the way through the shaft. Now, mind you, this thing sits like this. It came disconnected out of here. And you can't get a socket on these, and you can't get a box end wrench. There's not enough room. And I don't remember if this was assembled or not, whether I had to put that on. That just, my heart's still pounding. That just scared the bejesus out of me. So here's the problem with this. You can't really get these tightened because you can't get a socket in there. This one's a little better if you had a super thin socket, but this one up here, there's no way in the world. So all you can do is get an open end wrench on there. There's no way you can really lock that thing down. So here's your problem, Borgeson. That doesn't fit tight, and you can't expect two little set screws to hold that. So as they work back and forth, they wear into there, and I don't care if you have something drilled in there. They're going to work back and forth, and they're going to come loose, and eventually this is coming off. Look how sloppy that is. If you're going to have set screws, you cannot have any movement. None. And on this other end, the set screw goes through and then goes up against this tight. That's what they should have had on this end. It's a solid shaft, but if you drilled way down in there deep, but I'm still concerned about this. You're still relying on all that power to the steering box. You're holding it with two little set screws. This should be tight, really tight. So here's another issue. Do you see something wrong with that set screw? There's no tip on it. If you drill the hole for this to go into, there's no tip, there's no point. So I'm gonna have to go get some new set screws. That's just bullshit. That ain't gonna work. Let's go look at the other ones. I know that long one that goes through there doesn't need a point. There's the one that came out of the, no point on that one. Here's the long one. Got a hole in the middle, but not a point. So what's the point of that? I don't get it. If you're going to drill a hole for them to go down in, it's going to destroy the threads. You'll never get it back out. Most set screws that I've seen have a point on them to go into the hole. So what gives with that? So here's the problem with the Borgeson set screws. So they're not a pointed one. like these ones I just went and bought, if you can see that. So it looks to me like what they've done is they had like a hole in the middle and a ridge, and that's supposed to bite into that and hold it. But the problem with that is when this is installed, and because it's got slop in it like that, if someone tried to steer the truck without it running, it takes a horrendous amount of power to turn one without the power steering. And you're going to move this, and it's going to wipe out that edge. And as you can see, the tip that was supposed to bite in is completely gone. There's nothing there, so there's nothing to hold it. So over time, after it wears that off, boom, out it comes. So I've drilled this one, and I've got some pointed set screws to go in it, and they're going to go in with some blue Loctite, and they're going to get torqued down good. And then on this end, I'm not too worried because the screw goes all the way through here and inside there. So it's not dependent on really biting in there to hold anything. It's just going to keep it from coming off. Now there's one more that goes on this side, and I will drill that one for the point to go in and Loctite that one on also. So this is the one coming out the firewall, and the issue with it is you don't have enough length on this collar either. So if you look at the nut, it's down tight here, but you can see that the hex is up on the edge there because the radius, it's touching the radius, and that's no good either. These were not tight, and this one had also moved too. So you have the same sloppy fit on this end also. That's not good. That's not good at all. You're asking those two little screws to take all that torque. Now if the engine's running, the power steering's working, hey, great. But if the truck's dead and somebody tries to turn this, it's gonna turn those, and then you're gonna end up with a loose situation. This really needs to be a better fit. If I dared, I'd really like to just weld it. End of problem. That's a bad design. So Jeff almost died or sustained some injury, totaled his truck. But in the end, I won. I got that back in. I took the piece off the steering shaft coming out of the cab. And where that goes on, it's actually got a slot in the side. And I used one of those long end screws to go in there. Anyway, I've Loctited everything on, tightened the heck out of it. Had to call my good buddy Wayne Petty in in Hollywood and ask his advice. He told me to, when I tightened the lock nut, to also have the Allen wrench on there and try tightening the screw at the same time. I did that. They are tighter than a bull's ass at fly time. Tighter than a preacher's dick and a goat, whatever you want to say. So I'm still going to be scared to death driving it, but that's one thing I'm going to check regular, is make sure those screws and lock nuts are in tight and that shaft hasn't moved. I can't see down in there whether it's moved or not. I'd have to stick my hand up and feel it. But it's just beyond me how a downhill slope shaft came out of that joint. That's a new one on me. But anyway, I feel pretty lucky. Somebody was watching over me for it to happen when it did. So I feel a whole lot better, but I'm still scared of it. I'm still gun shy. Anyway, that's over. Yeah, 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 yeah.